Everyone has some sort of a closet that's become too small. A closet is no place to live, and I want to support as many people as I can in stepping out of that prison into the fullness of life that's waiting for them on the other side of that closet door. I'm Nancy Shadlock from Centered Life Coaching. Join me in listening to these Coming Out Chronicles. Get curious about your story, and then see what good things are waiting for you on the other side of your closet door.
It just so happened today during my Zoom meetings to have a ocean background. And it was very on point for today's podcast because at one point our guest goes right into his proposal story about seeing the Mediterranean for the first time. And I think you'll really enjoy this beautiful story of love in unconventional ways and times. And I think it'll also inspire you to think about, what in your life has come about differently than you expected, and how can we lean into receiving the gifts in that rather than fight against them and wish it was some other way. So enjoy. Mike Iamele, I'm so happy to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to jump in and hear your coming out story.
It is a story. So, yeah, my story starts. I was pretty successful early in life. So I had, when I was 22, I started a public relations agency, and I worked with a bunch of, celebrities, healthcare executives, politicians, people like that. And then I woke up one day a few years later, and I was vomiting blood. And that didn't stop for a few months. So as you can imagine, it was pretty terrifying. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I didn't know, I was going from doctor to doctor. I was in the hospital because I needed fluids. I was vomiting blood daily for about 2 months. And it got so bad that at one point I went into work and I realized I had to go to the bathroom, and I tried to make it and I didn't make it. And I shit my pants at work. And it was the most mortifying moment of my life. And I just knew something was wrong. Like, it was really getting bad. I couldn't leave the house anymore. I couldn't drive anymore. And so while this was going on, I had two roommates. One of them was in a relationship and so was not there often. And the other was a guy I knew casually from college. And we were kind of friends. And so just by chance, he was the only person home. And I was, couldn't drive myself to these appointments. And he was on residency, so he knew the medical system somewhat. And so he kind of became my de facto caretaker. He would take me, to my appointments, days when I couldn't get off the couch. He would cook me dinner. And about 2 months into this process, I realized I started developing feelings for him. And this felt a little bit strange because, at least up until this point in my life, I had never been with a man, and to my conscious knowledge, never been interested in a man. So I didn't really know what to think of this. And part of me was thinking, like, am I just like scared I'm going to die and there's like a human within proximity? Like, I don't really know what to think about this. And I think that probably I would have just brushed it under the rug and thought, like, this is nothing, this isn't real. But I was at this point in my life where I was doing crazy radical therapies to try to get better. Like, I was writing handwritten letters to every member of my family saying everything I've never said out loud to them. And so in this mentality, I thought, I'm just going to say something. Like, I don't know if he's going to be upset. I don't know if he's going to want to punch me in the face. I have no idea what this is going to be, but I'm just going to say, it didn't feel sexual exactly. It didn't even feel romantic, but like there was something happening here. And so I just one day got up the nerve and I said, Garret, which is his name, I feel something and I don't know how to describe it. I don't know, like, I've never felt something like this. I want to just talk about it and be really honest about it. And I'm lucky that Garret is probably the most thoughtful person in the world. And so he said, okay, like, let me sit with this. Let me at least think about it. And right now I'm condensing, months down into just a few minutes. But emails and freakouts and conversations later, we decided that we wanted to explore a relationship. And we wanted to see if this can work. At the time we were still exploring physicality. So we had an open relationship and dated women while we were exploring a physical relationship. And it's a whole long story of how we explored that over the course of 2 years. We used pornography to help us to explore things that we weren't ready to physicalize, but we thought, could we be interested in this? And anyway, long story short, after about a year and a half, we moved in, just the two of us, and we decided this was real. And we were ready to tell our families this was something that was serious, because I think at the time we were also worried, like, what if I get better and then we're just done with this? And so we kind of wanted to allow this to have real longevity. And so at the time, obviously, I felt like getting sick and vomiting blood, probably not a good thing. And so I ended up leaving my job. I thought that okay, like something's wrong in my life. I've got to leave my job. And it just turned out that about the same time that I was leaving my job was about when we were ready to tell our family, because I gave a year's notice at work. Now, anyone listening, I never recommend you do that. However, I was an owner of this company. I felt like it was the right thing to do. So we told our family, and, some good reactions, some bad reactions. The best reaction that I'll share is my dad's, who said, "Oh, so you're leaving your job and you found yourself a rich boyfriend. You are so smart," which was probably the best reaction you could hope for, right? Not everybody was super supportive, but they got there. But that was a really good one. And so we, I started this new business, and it was going okay. I didn't love it. And I decided that I wanted to start writing about some of my experiences. Not my relationship, but kind of, I was successful at a young age. I got sick. It wasn't what it was cracked up to be. And so I started a blog. And this blog got decently popular. And about 3 months later, a publisher reached out and said, "Mike, can I just give you a book deal?" And so at the time, I was kind of like, does this happen? Like, okay, yeah, if you're going to pay me, I will totally take a book deal. And she was a queer editor that I worked with. And she was really encouraging me to talk about my story and talk about Garret in the book. And so I said, okay. So I turn in the manuscript, and then I think, oh shit. Like, I have to tell people about this, because yes, my close friends and family knows, but I can't let people find out on the shelves of Barnes & Noble. So I have to tell people in my life about this. And before this book comes out, and I had about 9 months until the book came out. And I thought, you know what? I'm a writer. The best way to do this is to just blog about it, because I can just put it on my blog. Everyone can talk shit behind my back. I don't have to deal with all the emotional stress and freakouts. And then they can come to me once they're processed. And this just feels so much easier and better. And I didn't have a huge blog, but it was, decently popular enough that people in my personal life would know. And so I wrote this blog post, told everybody my story. I went to bed that night, and when I woke up, 100,000 people had shared it. So that was the time that millions of people were talking about my sex life. It was by far the most overwhelming experience of my life to wake up to literally thousands of emails, phone calls from NPR and Huffington Post and Yahoo Finance and News, all wanting to talk about this story. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, of course, I understood the appeal to some extent, but it also was just my life. It didn't seem like this really interesting thing. And 2, people were asking me to defend a sexuality that, quite frankly, I wasn't clear about. And so people were kind of accusing me of things or saying things to me, and really from all sides. And it was so overwhelming. My therapist got a phone call that week, as you can imagine. But it was really an intense time in my life. And I just kind of wanted to shut down and not talk about this, because I felt like I did interesting work. Any interview I was on, nobody wanted to hear about my work. They only wanted to hear about Garret. And I kind of became Garret's boyfriend. That was the role I played in this world. And everything else that was about me was kind of brushed aside. And so for a long time, I didn't do interviews. I didn't talk about this because it was so overwhelming to me. And really only, honestly, in the last 6 to 9 months, a friend of mine was like, "Mike, you should be, talking again," because the world has changed quite a bit. And it's really interesting. This was 8 years ago, so a lot easier to talk about now. Yeah. But the dialogue around sexuality that we're having today is so interesting. And I mean, still, we have a lot of work to go, but different than it even was at this point. And so it's been really interesting to watch this and come out and start having conversations about bisexuality and pansexuality and sexual fluidity in a way that maybe when I remember I had first written this, there was a lot more resistance to these conversations.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What an incredible story.
Yeah. That. I mean, everything's more glamorous in retrospect. Let's say that.
Yeah. living it was probably not so fun in moments.
Of course. But it was really one thing that was really exciting about it and felt good to me beyond all the stress and the overwhelm was how many emails I got, personal emails from people who said, I'm exploring something, or I'm questioning my sexuality, or my sexuality is changing, where I felt really comfortable with it and now it's changing, and this has just validated me. Or, these labels I thought I had don't necessarily fit me anymore. And, one thing I've really come to say a lot is that, labels and theories are there to generalize lived experience. And they're beautiful. They help us explain lived experience. But if ever our lived experience counters any theory or label or conditioning, we're the right thing and that's the wrong thing. Like, it's, no matter whatever you're feeling, even if it's changing or fluid or different than you thought before, you are right. Every human being is right. Every desire is right. And anything that's telling you that you're not right, that's the wrong thing. I mean, theories are only there to explain humans. So if it's not explaining you, you can throw it away because that's not very helpful for you.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that people were reaching out to you because I think that's so helpful, so needed.
Yeah, and people in my personal life who, will never be in a same-sex relationship that said, Mike, I feel like I just want to tell you that I've realized through this article parts of myself that I was shaming, that I had these kind of subtle attractions that I would never have acknowledged, and I don't feel like I feel called to be in a relationship with anybody of the same sex, but I just feel like I can speak about this now. And it was really interesting to kind of be thrust into the spotlight that I never asked for and didn't want, but over the years have come to appreciate the opportunity and the conversations I've gotten to have with both people in my personal life and then people all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like, as a coming out coach, I get to have so many of those incredible conversations and help people come out in a empowered way. So it's not like a traumatic event, but it's like an empowering thing. And so I guess that would be a question for you, is like, if you could have had more support in that chapter of your life, what would you have wished for?
Yeah, I was fortunate to have a therapist, not a queer therapist, but a therapist nonetheless, who had space to talk about, and I think more space to unpack and talk and feel, validated in what I was feeling. I think I also had maybe an unorthodox coming out, so there were very few people who understood exactly what I was going through or feeling, which I would have just loved to hear from somebody who had somewhat of a similar story and could kind of validate what I was feeling. I think what was so helpful for me was having Garret and being in a relationship in this experience, because we really had to rely on each other. And we, had a basis in our relationship of being so vulnerable and so honest, just given how our relationship formed. So, we had some weird things happen. There was a stalking incident during this time. There was, Garret was being harassed online. We had somebody actually wrote a novel about us, and it's out there somewhere. Somebody was writing a play about this. I mean, things got really strange. And so it was really helpful to have somebody who maybe he didn't bear the same brunt that I did, but at least to talk about and feel like I had someone who was going through this with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that, because I'd say relationship is the biggest place of growth for us. Like, having a safe relationship to really lean into your past experiences and what's happening in your life is the most fertile ground for like personal growth and moving into what's next. And so I love that you have Garret. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been such a journey with us. People ask me all the time, first of all, when you guys first kissed, did it feel so natural, this person that you love? And this, I always say, no, it felt like the most unnatural thing, because I had never felt facial hair while kissing somebody before. And so that was really a hurdle. I remember we kissed once and we did not kiss again for a while. And, just exploring what that felt like and looked like. And I remember the moment that I knew I was in love with him. And I'm fortunate that I can pin it down to this moment, because I was at a party. So it was about 6 months after I was sick. We were just new in our relationship. And I was the first time I left the house, really, to go out socially. And Garret was still on residency. So he was working until midnight. He was working about a 16-hour day. And I went to a Christmas party, in a section of Boston that is notoriously bad for parking. So there's just no parking there. It's all cobblestone streets, and there was a snowstorm that night. And I'm at this party, and it's about 1 a.m., and I'm getting ready to go home, and I look over in the corner, and there's Garret sitting in his scrubs. And I went over to him, like, what are you doing? Like, you worked until midnight. You have this, 16-hour day. Why would you drive all the way to this party? And he said, you're right. Like, I got in my car, and I was about to drive home, and I was absolutely exhausted and miserable. And I realized by the time I got home, you would still have to take the bus home, and you'd be a half hour later, and I would probably be asleep at that point. And I wanted something for me today. And so I got in my car and I decided I was going to find parking in this snowstorm in these cobblestone streets so I could sit in the corner and have one drink and just watch you tell stories. Because I could watch you tell stories all night. And then I can drive you home and see you and go to bed. And that's all I wanted after this long day. And I thought, well, shit, I have to marry this man. So it took me 4 years to plan the proposal, and that's a whole nother story. But I knew at that moment I had to marry him.
That's so beautiful. What I'm also gathering from him is that he said what he wanted. Because I've been in a similar situation of like being a caregiver and giving in all these different areas of my life, but I really struggle with that piece of saying what I want. Yes. And so to hear him be like, this is what I want, I'm going to do this for me. And it's not selfish. It was actually a huge gift also. For
yes. You. I think that's such a beautiful point. Garret is naturally such a caregiver. I mean, I think that's a role he's very comfortable with. He works with patients with hard to manage diabetes and chronic disease, and he's so patient and so caring. And I think for him, one thing I'm always encouraging him about is speaking up and asking for his needs and his desires. And, I think that is something so beautiful, that those moments where I feel like we've had the deepest connection have been when he's been able to speak up and ask for what he needs, because he lets me see him fully and shows himself to the world.
Oh, thank you for that. That was a message for me too. I needed that today. Can you just tell us the proposal story? Because
I can.
We're all waiting with
it's a story. It is a story. Like, it's a 10-minute story, but I promise you, it's a pretty good story. So, I knew then I was going to propose to Garret, and I more specifically knew I was going to propose to him the first time he saw the Mediterranean Sea, because he had never been to Europe. I spent a few summers in Italy, and I just knew this exact balcony on the Amalfi Coast in Italy. And when he first saw the Mediterranean, that was where I was going to propose. So I had just been starting a business, couldn't hide thousands of dollars and not seem stressed out about money at this point. So, of course, I wanted it to be a surprise, and so it took me 4 years. But 4 years later, I said, hey, Garret, can you take a week off of work? No big deal. It's just a small thing in like 4 months. And he's like, okay, I guess so. So he takes a week off of work. And I think I can't even afford anything but the plane tickets at this point. But I'll figure it out. I've got 4 months to pay for everything. So I knew I wanted to ask for his parents' blessing. And this was a whole thing because his brother was so nervous. He's like, my dad's going to say no, and you should just like not propose. I mean, you should just get married anyway. I was like, well, hold up. I'm not asking for permission. I'm asking for a blessing. And I'll tell Garret that he didn't give the blessing. Garret gets to make his choice. Like, I'm not forcing Garret to marry me. And he's like, oh, okay. So we had this weekend where I flew down to Philadelphia to stay with his ex-girlfriend because she was an important part of his life. I wanted to include her. She drove me to their hometown, and I asked for everyone's blessing. Everyone was very, gracious, and of course gave me their blessing. But I told Garret I was at a yoga retreat in Syracuse. I was actually in Philadelphia. So I knew he was going to check Flight Tracker and try to pick me up at the airport. And I am trying to lie every which way. Like, I've got Uber credit, don't pick me up, this and that. And of course, he's still like, this doesn't make sense. It says you're in the air right now, but you're at an airport. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's broken. So somehow I lied my way out of that one. Then comes the week that we're ready to leave. Now, we're about to leave, and I kid you not, every conversation I had that week, somebody brought up Italy. But worse than that, they would bring up Italy and then be like, oh shit, and just stop talking. And I was like, no, that makes it so much worse. Like, just keep talking if you're going to talk. And it just kept happening. So somehow, I guess, Garret didn't know. And then I found his passport. I had it, like I was ready to grab it the morning of. I was so excited. Nobody ever needs their passport in everyday life. So I thought, this is perfect. I know where it is. And then he comes to me the morning that we were leaving. So we're leaving that night, the morning, and says, oh, I need to bring my passport to work because I'm teaching at a university for tax reasons. The one time in his entire life he has needed his passport was that exact day. I thought, oh my God, he's going to have his passport on him. How am I getting that passport off of him? So he comes home, and I kept saying, we're going to hit the road when you get home, because our flight was at 11, so I knew we had time. It was no way he was working too late, and I didn't want him to know if we were flying or driving. So I kept saying, like, pack for both, but I wouldn't put a knife in your carry-on, and so I wasn't giving him many clues here. So he comes home from work, and he says, all right, Mike, tell me one thing. There's only one thing I'm going to make you tell me. Will I need my passport? I don't want to bring it and then lose it. And I thought, shit, Mike, you just got to commit. You got to make a decision at this point. So I said, no, you don't need it. I don't want you to bring it and lose it. You're right. Why don't you go put it away, pack the car, I'll be down in a second. I have to pee. I sprinted into that bedroom so fast, grabbed that passport, zipped it up in my bag, and went downstairs and said, oh, not that car. I mean the Uber I just ordered. So we get in the Uber, and we're headed to the airport. And now, if you can't tell already, I am psychotic. So I am studying the blueprint of the airport because in Boston, Terminal E is international. I couldn't have him know we were going international. But I saw from the blueprint that there's a passageway from C to E. And so I could get dropped off at C and be able to move my way over, right? So we get dropped off at Terminal C, which is JetBlue, and we fly JetBlue sometimes. So we get dropped off over there, and I go to the kiosk, and I'm just like, oh, shit. And he's like, what is it? What'd you forget? And I said, oh, can you just hold this? And I gave him his passport. And he said, why would you bring your passport? Wait, this is my passport. So I said, yeah. Hold this. And I gave him 3 books on Rome. And he said, what's going on here? Why are you giving me books on Rome? And I said, well, when you get up tomorrow morning, you'll be in Rome. We're going on a plane to Rome tonight, and you'll be there by the morning. And he was all confused. So we go through that passageway that I studied, and I knew he was going to call his mom. Now, Garrett's mom, God love her, is a terrible liar, like one of the worst liars out there. And I said, Cheryl, you're going to have to work with me here because there are multiple layers to this lie. You have to pretend you knew about the trip to Italy, but not the engagement, right? So there's like layers here. You can do this. So somehow she pulls it off. We get on the plane, and I said to Garret, this is your trip. We can do the local thing. We can do the touristy thing. I want you to plan the entire trip yourself. My only rule is we have half the week in Rome, half the week in Amalfi. Other than that, you do what you want to do. So he spends the whole plane ride, planning out the trip, exactly what he wants to do. We get to Rome, and it is supposed to rain every single day that we're there. But it didn't. It was beautiful and sunny. I felt like, okay, someone's looking out for me. But still, we lugged our raincoat and, umbrella everywhere we went, just in case. So we're always lugging this around. We had a beautiful 3 days in Rome. The day came where we were leaving. The Saturday, we were leaving for Amalfi, and our train was at 2. And we couldn't miss this train because it was the last train of the day. It was non-refundable tickets. We had no way to stay in Rome, somewhere to stay there. Long story short, it would have been about $1,000 or $1,500 if we missed it. So I was like, we cannot miss this train. So I said, whatever we're doing today cannot be too busy. And Garret said, well, the one thing I just cannot forgive myself if I leave Rome and don't do this is I want to go to the Vatican. I said, okay, on a Saturday. Beautiful. We will try this. So we get over there. Finally, this day, it's not supposed to rain. The one day, the forecast is good. We finally put our raincoats and umbrella back because we said, okay, we don't have to lug those all day. We get over to the Vatican, and there's a long line. And so I asked somebody, how long is the line? They said, oh, it's going to be about 2 hours. I said, oh, Garret, they always exaggerate. They try to scare you out of line. Don't worry about it. We get in this line. It starts downpouring. So now it is completely raining on us. We have no rain jacket, no umbrella. Garret has this nice camera that we have to buy a €10 poncho just to wrap around so the camera doesn't break. We're getting soaked. And I now have to pee. And I have to pee so badly. I'm standing in this rain, and I cannot get out of line. I'm not missing this spot. And I have to pee. I have to pee so badly. And now Garret starts getting hungry. And I just want this line to move. And so we're waiting some more. Finally, we are 3 people from the front of the line. It's been 2.5 hours. And Garret said, it's not worth us spending like €40 each to spend 10 minutes in there. We don't have time. Let's get out of line. So we left line after standing in the rain for 2.5 hours. I had to pee so badly at this point that I said, you know what? Let's just go grab a bite to eat. Let's pee somewhere, and let's head back and just catch our train. So we're in Vatican City. Some of the restaurateurs can be very particular over there. It was 12:45. Nothing opens until 1. So I said, I don't even care about food. I just want to pee. Please let me in to pee. Nobody's letting me pee. So I cannot go to the bathroom here. I said, fine, screw it. Like, let's just go back to the metro. Let's get back to our hotel, pee there, grab our bags. We'll eat at the train station. So I go over to the metro, and there were people standing outside in the rain. And so I'm like, why would people be standing in the rain? So I asked what happened. There was a huge delay between 3 stops, the only stops we needed, so we couldn't take the metro. So I said, okay, we are walking home, speed walking home at this point. So we've got this map trying to find our way back that is now disintegrating in our hands because of the rain. We're trying to read the street signs, but they're etched in Roman letters into buildings. So with the downpouring, I can hardly see it. Long story short, the bridge we wanted went one way. The bridge we took went a different way. We are now further away from our hotel in Rome. I have to pee so badly, I cannot sit still. I can't even think. Garrett's hungry has turned to hangry. We start bickering, and all I can think is, screw this. I'm not proposing today. Like, this is a disaster. I'm not doing it. I'm not proposing. I spent thousands of dollars and years of planning, and this is just not the day. I will wait. Maybe it's not the first time he sees the Mediterranean. Maybe it's the second time. I am going to wait a day. I was so frustrated. And before we left, a friend of mine who's Hindu told me to pray to the Hindu god Ganesha. And so I did a prayer that she had sent me. I thought nothing of this. Well, anyway, we're in the middle of Rome. I'm like, why is this happening to me? And I look over, and there's a giant mural of Ganesha in the middle of Rome. And so, okay, this is the placer and remover of obstacles. This is the guardian of thresholds. Pay attention, Mike. Obstacles for a reason. So I remember this piazza. Garret remembers that piazza. Long story short, we find our way back to the hotel. We don't have time to eat lunch anymore, but fine. We run upstairs, we pee, we grab our bags, and we run over to the metro station to take to the train station. We get into the metro station, and we had weekly passes. So I put my pass through, went through the turnstile. Garret goes to put his pass through, and he says, oh shit, it was in my front pocket. It's now disintegrated. So he doesn't have a way to get through. So I said, okay, you're going to have to go over to the machine and get the machine from Italian to English. It's a busy Saturday. Nobody's helping an American right now. So I'm going to yell to you across the turnstile how to get this machine into English and buy your ticket. I can't get back through. So I'm yelling to him. He finally figures it out, puts it in. It doesn't work. I was like, Garret, go back. We have one more shot at this. He goes back, buys another ticket. It finally works. So we get over to the metro. We take it to Roma Termini, which is the main train station in Rome. So this has, 30, 40 trains going at any given time. I mean, this is a very busy train station, one of the busiest in Italy. And so we had 5 minutes until our train left. I said, Garret, okay, this is where the platform, it's going to say where the platform is posted. I'm just going to go make sure what I printed out offline is enough, or if I have to exchange for a physical ticket. So he's waiting for me. I get over there. There's 2 minutes left now, and nothing is posted. Everything before and after says if it's delayed, but this one, it's faded out. It's the machine was broken. The platform sign was broken. I said, oh my God, Garret, I don't know what platform this is. And it's a regular train, so most people taking it probably take it every day. They know this train. So I said, Garret, we just have to go through security, run up and down all 40 trains, and hope we see the right train and just jump on. We have less than 2 minutes. So we go through, we run up and down all 40 trains, and we can't find the train. And we are panicking at this point because we are there. We are literally on the platform, and we're going to lose $1,000 if we do not jump on this train at this moment. So I'm sweating. I run over to an attendant. I said, please, please, please call in which track number it is. He said, no, I think you're confused. I said, I'm not confused. I promise you. Just please call this in. So he calls it in, and he turns to me and says, oh my God, your train is leaving in less than a minute. Run. We now have all of our bags. We are soaking wet from the rain. We are sweating and disgusting, still hungry because we have not eaten anything. And we are sprinting down this train platform. And I kid you not, I wish I were exaggerating this part. We jumped onto a train, and within 10 seconds, that train took off. So we made it. We are on the train now. I am sweating. I am breathing heavy. I am hungry. I am miserable. And my only thought in my mind is, screw this. I'm not proposing. I'm just going to wait another day. I am not proposing. And then Garret turns to me and says, it's so weird. For everything that went wrong today, you would have thought we would have turned on each other. But we didn't. We worked together as a team. Isn't that weird? And I thought, well, shit, now I have to propose today. So we take this train ride 3 hours down to the Amalfi Coast, and I bought him a watch. I transferred it into my raincoat because God knows it's still raining. And we get out and we walked a mile to our hotel in the rain still. But at this point, I don't even care. Like, it is on. I am determined to propose at this point. I don't know what I'm going to say because everything I thought was this beautiful romantic thing I was going to say is shot to shit at this point. So I said, I'll figure it out, but I am proposing. So we check into the hotel. We put our bags down in our room. I said, hey, Garret, do you want to go check out the rooftop? Who in their right mind would want to check out their rooftop at this moment in the rain? But Garret was like, I guess so, sure. So we go out to the rooftop. Now it's only drizzling at this point, but still. And I said, hey, why don't you check out that castle in the distance that you obviously can't see through the rain and fog? And he turns around to check out this castle. And I get down on one knee. And I don't know what I'm going to say at this moment, but I just think I got to figure something out. So he turned back around and I said, Garret, I'm not going to lie to you. I woke up this morning and I planned on proposing to you. And then everything went to shit. Like, everything I could have went wrong. And I thought, screw this. I'm not proposing to you. I have been planning this for 4 years. I have spent thousands of dollars. I was so stressed about money. I put everything into this and I'm not wasting on this one shot. Like, I have one shot at this. This is not going to be the day. I want it to be this big, glamorous, beautiful, romantic day, and it is not going to be this. And then everything did go wrong. And you reminded me, we started working together as a team. And I realized I don't just have one shot at this. I have a million shots at this. Because every day for the rest of my life, I just wake up, I ask myself if I'm still game to do this, and I ask you to love me. Today is just one of those days. So I brought you to the most beautiful place that I know that could potentially rival your beauty to ask you, will you marry me? And he said, maybe. No, he said yes. And then I pulled out a picture of me with his family that was date stamped and it said Cheryl approved, which is his mom's name. And then we got to spend the rest of the vacation celebrating.
That's amazing. Goosebumps.
So it's a great story of no intention of my own. I did not plan for everything to go wrong, but I think in both of these situations, whether it was, or all of these situations, getting really sick and falling in love with Garret, having the story go viral, which I did not want, or, proposing on a day that everything went to shit, I realized, life happens and life is going to keep happening. And these moments that, none of it is going to be glamorous. And I don't think anyone's coming out is quite as glamorous as any of us want it to be, period. But, to find that courage and conviction and truth of who we are and show up even when things aren't so perfect is something that has really guided me in life. And it's been a real gift in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really beautiful perspective. And I can see why Garret wanted to sit in the corner and listen to you tell stories. You're a great storyteller. So what I think is that we're all on coming out journeys. If we're growing and learning, there's always going to be this new layer of us that we're sharing with the world. And so I'm curious of what's your next coming out chapter?
What's the next thing for me? Yeah, I think hopefully many things. I hope there's many new evolutions for me. I've never talked about this in an interview, so I guess here we go. We're exploring very early stage, very timidly, a potential baby process. So we are talking about this, and we may there's a potential unconventional process where a friend of ours who is single and wants to be a mom, we may co-parent with her and have joint custody. And so we're just initially talking about that. And that feels exciting. And I want to be vulnerable here on this coming out podcast, sort of vulnerable, because there's many things that can go wrong. And I don't know if it's a definite thing, but it's exciting to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really beautiful. We have a little bit of an unconventional story too. My wife and I got pregnant at the same time, and we used a known donor. And so he's in our kids' lives. We don't co-parent, but he's like a really beautiful presence in their life. And I think it's, if you can have more people loving on your kids, why not?
Absolutely. You know what? This is a funny, silly analogy, but when I got a second dog, I was, of course, so paranoid, like, is my first dog going to be jealous and anxious? And I read an article from a woman who's had multiple children and multiple dogs and said, love doesn't divide, it multiplies. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah. Yeah. You can think at first, like, am I going to have enough love for all these beings?
Right. Of course.
It just keeps coming. Yeah.
It just keeps, your capacity just continues growing. Our capacity to love is endless.
Mm-hmm. It's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing a little insight into you and Garrett's life and your love. And it's inspiring to hear, how you've just rolled with the punches and gone with whatever life has brought to you. I know for my own coming out, I had to let go of the life that I had dreamed for myself in order to receive the life that was mine.
Yeah, and let me just say that again, everything is glamorous in retrospect. That letting go wasn't as graceful and beautiful as maybe it sounds in 30 minutes. There was certainly the freakouts and the pain and the struggle. And I want to validate everybody listening and everybody's experiences because we're all on that journey continuously. And I'm still doing it, right? Of letting go of, I didn't expect this unconventional co-parenting potential relationship, but life's going to keep presenting itself. And we can decide to roll with it and, step into who we truly are and be really happy, or stick to this image of who we thought we were supposed to be. And personally, even though it's a lot harder and a lot more work and oftentimes a lot more painful, I'd rather live a life that feels like me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the only life there is. Like, you just got to be you. Thanks for being with us here today, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me here.
Thanks for listening to the Coming Out Chronicles. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. And if you think it would be helpful for someone else, please share it with them. If you'd like to connect with me, reach out on social. I'd love to support you on the next chapter of your coming out story. Until next time, this is Nancy Shadlock from Centered Life Coaching.